Welcome to another episode of That's Some Crazy Shit with Kelly and James. I am Kelly and my co-host is Mr. James. What's up, dude?
How's it going, my partner? Another beautiful day here.
It is going fantastically. If that is a word. Fantastically is a word. Yeah, sounds good. Fantastically. Yeah, it is now. And I say that because we have another guest, James, that is all about the spirituality, which is always a positive thing, right?
It is always a positive thing.
And so
it's funny. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I say it's funny how we attract these people.
Yeah, we do. We attract a lot of interesting people, and when I say interesting, I mean it in the kindest way. Just because I have no words sometimes for the people that we meet.
Sure, some of the lives they lead and stuff, and the abilities they have, and the things they've seen. It's crazy.
Yeah. So this guy, our guest today, is D. Neil Elliott, and he's written a book called A Higher Road: Cleanse Your Consciousness to Transcend the Ego and Ascend Spiritually. So you can kind of guess, what the book is about. And it's really about opening your mind and considering new perspectives about life. And he is all about, we've talked about the ego before.
Yep, ego raises its little head.
Right? And so he talks about, his book and following his program, and I believe it's 7 steps.
Yes.
And he'll talk more about it when we speak with him. So I'm excited. It is, even though, no disrespect, spirituality, again, crazy shit.
It is.
Like I said, if you've ever gone on a spiritual journey, it is no cup of tea. It can be quite emotional.
I would have to say, yeah, if I should say if done correctly, because there is no way to do it, but yeah, it can be a roller coaster. Huh?
It really can be. If you are on or have been on a spiritual journey, especially trying to figure out who you are, what you believe, what you're supposed to be doing, what the fuck, what's the meaning of life, all that blah, all that good stuff.
All that crazy shit.
So let's just get to our guest, shall we?
Let's do it.
Welcome to the podcast, author D. Neil Elliott.
Welcome. We appreciate you coming. Thanks for being on the show. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. And it's such a pleasure to be here with you and Kelly.
Great. So I wanted to start out by asking you why you wrote your book.
Great question. Really, I wrote my book because I wanted to be able to help people. I want to help people come from out of wherever they are, whether they're, unhappy or happy, whether they're depressed or ecstatic, or whether they're ill or healthy, whether they live on the street or they live in a posh mansion. Everybody internally has their own view of the world. And I know I was struggling, and we'll talk about that. I was struggling, and the 7 steps that kind of found me, that I share in my book, just transformed my life. And so my goal is to help change the consciousness of the world, one person at a time.
That's a huge undertaking. So, when you say in your book, when you say transcend spiritually and, being able to, I guess, understand the ego, can you explain more, Neil, what you mean by that?
Yeah. So we're jumping right into the middle of a conversation here, but absolutely. So our ego is a tool of the divine. And let me back up just a minute. So in my book, we'll share some science stuff and then bridges into spirituality. I share some secrets that I believe most people are unaware of, and I was certainly unaware of them. And it would talk about what was before the Big Bang, the impetus for the Big Bang, what happened at the time of the Big Bang, and how the universe and material form was created. And in that process of creation, the ego was created as a tool of the divine to enable material form, so our form that we see, or all the planets around us in the universe. And that tool of the ego is based in electromagnetism. And it has control of what we think and what we say and what we do until we wake up to the fact that this is what's going on for us. And then we can go through a process to actually transcend those ego responses in life and connect with the divine and express the divine. We are not here to please God. We are here to express God. And as we move from incarnation to incarnation, the purpose of the soul's journey is to learn varying experiences and have varying experiences to learn about what it's like to create individual things, but its goal is always to come back to be reunified with the divine.
I like that. So, when you were writing your book, Neil, did you feel like it was coming from somewhere else?
So absolutely. Like I was, again, let me put some context for this for people. I'm currently 61 and I'm a professional engineer with an MBA, and I worked, in the hydroelectric industry for over 30 years. And I tried a number of times to change how I thought, because I had, inside, I was quite affable and pleasant and kind to people, especially clients, but inside I was a mess. And over time, what I did was every experience that comes into our lives, we create. Every event, every experience, every person we meet, we actually create those circumstances. And they are part of this process for the soul to finally wake up. And what I attracted into my life was, essentially it drove me to this deep depression and questioning myself about why are we here? What's our purpose in life? Like, I'm just done with this. And so sitting down to craft a suicide note. And so I was on the brink of committing suicide. And what happened was some new information came to me. So I say it found me. And that information changed how I thought about life and about creation, and gave me the method and processes to follow, in addition to some of my own that I can share, to connect with the divine. And when I finally made that connection with the divine and have that spiritual inflow of energy, I was inspired by the divine. And so whenever I was writing this book and trying to share these processes, and anytime I was struggling, I would reach out to get direction, and that direction came to me. So yes, I was inspired. That's a long answer for your question.
No, but that was a perfect answer, because that takes our listeners through the whole process. It's not, sometimes it is just, you don't know how it comes to you, but it does.
So is that how you came upon the 7 steps?
So the 7 steps, it was a bigger process than that. So in the 90s, I currently 61. So in the 90s, I would have been in my 30s. I was trying to change my attitudes. And, I always figured, engineer, this is the right way you do things. This is wrong. We should, stick with a plan. If we say we're headed north, then we go north and we stick going north because that's our goal. We don't, 2 months from now, all of a sudden say we're going south, as a business, right? And so I was quite fed up with this employment situation I was in that was politically driven. And, they would say, okay, we're doing this. And everybody had it that way. And then a few months later, it'd be, no, about face, we're going this way. And it just made no sense to me. And so, I'm going to pause because I want to ask you, I've lost track of your question.
No, I asked you, is that how you obtain the 7 steps?
Oh, okay. So so I'll finish that. And so what happened over time was I was reading these spiritual books, picked up ones that you had probably read yourself, or your audience has read, books by Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, those kinds of books, Napoleon Hill, to try and change how I was thinking, and nothing really stuck. And then I went into consulting in the early 2002s, and, life became about work. And so I dropped all my readings. Life became about work. And then I realized in about 2015 that I was very depressed. It creeps on really slow. And so I started to pick up new books that were issued by authors in the same genre to try and change my processes. So part of the 7 steps is part of or some of the pre-reading for the 7 steps is part of these science books that are based in science that help change how I thought about consciousness. And initially, what I thought about consciousness was that everything that I ever thought about, it was something that I was exposed to, it was something that I learned, it was something that I was taught by my parents or by my teachers or by my experiences. And I thought it was all in my brain. My concept of consciousness now is entirely different. I would describe it more as consciousness is not only within us, it's all around us. And I would describe my thoughts more like this stream of thoughts that go by my awareness. And I pick a thought out, I think about it, and I will either accept it and dwell it and agree with it, or I'll just reject it and throw it back in the stream. And we do this in a nanosecond. And what we do is how we're shaped from babyhood to adulthood. We come in as these perfect fragment of divine consciousness. So our soul is a perfect fragment of divine consciousness. We come from unconditional love. We return to unconditional love. But while we're here, as we're growing up from babyhood to adulthood, we think we're becoming versed in the ways of the world. But what we're really doing is we're binding down our ego, binding down our soul with our ego responses to life. And we're shutting our soul off from the connection with the divine. And so what happens is that as we grow older, our ego is making all of these choices. We think we talk about the I, and it's really the little I of ego. It is the I mind of the ego. It is not the I of the soul. And because we've shut this off, and because we do this, this directs what we create in our life. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But so I got to this very deep depression. I read these science books because I like to be grounded in things that I can see, observe, measure, and be recorded. So I've read these books. It shaped how I thought about thinking, shaped how I thought about consciousness. And then I read a book by a woman who had a near-death experience. And she had suffered from an extremely aggressive cancer that over a 4-year period took her from being very healthy down to 75 to 90 pounds, couldn't lift up her head, was on oxygen 24 hours a day, and, was totally looked after by her family and other help. And she fell into this coma and was rushed to the hospital. The admitting physicians told her husband she wouldn't make it through the night. 24 hours later, she woke up and declared she would be okay. And within 2 weeks, they couldn't find a trace of cancer in her body. That was in 2006, roughly 2006. And, so this is all medically documented. And what she described while she was in the coma just took my understanding of consciousness and stretched it even further. And all of this process of these science books and then this near-death experience, which I recommend everybody read, just stretched what I thought about consciousness. It was preparing me for this other information I was about to receive. Then this blueprint document, it's not really a blueprint document. It's a bunch of material that I've assembled into a blueprint document. And after you read A Higher Road, and in A Higher Road, you learn how to gain access to that information. But when you've completed it, if you decide to embark on this similar journey to mine and follow the 7 steps, I make this material available to people for free. And so in answer to your question, it was this process that I went through that prepared me to be ready to accept this new information that came to me.
Neil, I like that you're making this available for free. So many of our guests come on, and I like that their message is they just want to get this knowledge out there and share it with as many people as possible.
Yeah. So A Higher Road is constructed to lay a foundation for people to get everybody on the same page, have everybody on the same, use the same language, and to build this foundation so that when they finally decide that, yeah, I would like to embark on this process, then they will be open to look at this material and read this material. Because if I was to just present it to somebody right now, the majority of people would just run because of how it's marketed, because of, kind of just all of these ego concepts that we have, we would reject it. And so this process I went through fertilized me, so to speak, till the soil got rid of all those stones and all the clumps, and it prepared this ground for me to be able to accept these kind of new seeds of information, so to speak. And it in itself also has this very slow, progressive, not slow, but has this very progressive laying of a foundation for people to actually understand what it is, what they're going to learn. It's brand new knowledge.
Neil, is there a follow-up book to Higher Road? Are you working on something else?
I will, things are coming to me now. I'm waiting to be inspired to get direction on what that's going to be. So I fully expect there will be a follow-up book.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people would probably appreciate a follow-up, because even though Higher Road seems to be very thorough in the knowledge that you give and that you provide, I think for me, there are always more questions, right? Even though I gain knowledge, I always seem to have more questions. And I don't know if that's just my curious nature, because it seems non-ending for me. It's just who I am. But I would, so that's why I asked, did you have something planned for a follow-up?
I do. And, so there's a couple things. Initially, I'm thinking that, okay, the first thing is to get this book out for people to read, digest, So my recommended way to read this book, A Higher Road, is to read it from cover to cover, understand the process in its entirety, and then make a decision for yourself whether or not you'd like to embark on this journey. If you choose to embark on this journey, then I will provide this other information for you, which you will need. And I know for myself, so I started this process in 2017, in November of 2017, and I was deeply depressed and going to commit suicide. But this material had come to me, which promised to liberate me from my thinking. And so I thought, okay, well, I finished my suicide note. I finished my plan of how I was going to do it, because I wanted to do it in a way which would leave my wife financially stranded. I wanted to say goodbye to my family and my kids without them knowing what I was going to do. But so I finished all that plan, and then I decided, okay, well, this material promised to liberate me from my thinking. And so I said, okay, to myself, I said, okay, well, I'll put a plan in place. I'll study this. If it doesn't work, I'll still commit suicide. If it does work, then that's great. And almost a year to the day of following these 7 steps and going through this process, I woke up almost a year to the day and just full of inner peace, joy, and love and abundance. And I just wanted to share this with everybody and share it from the rooftops. And I decided I'd be viewed as a nutcase, so I wasn't going to do that. So it took me a couple of years to figure out how to write the book. But I have continued this process. I am a work in progress. And the spiritual ascension that I talk about takes time. And so we come back to your thing about, questions that you have. I have lots of questions. But as I continue this process, the inspiration and the answers come, and it comes in formats I'm not expecting or unexpected. I no longer have preconceived notions about things. I wait for it to be revealed to me. And as I go through this process, the things continue to be revealed for me. And things that I'm currently struggling with, I get answers and direction about what I need to do and open myself up to further information. And so I think as anybody goes through this process or whatever spiritual process you're going through, you have to be, you have to be patient, you have to work on it, and you have to follow the direction that comes to you. And it might not make sense to you, but part of this process is to relinquish the little I mind of ego will, and to allow the will of the divine to work through you and for you. And as you go through that process, you will grow in spiritual wisdom and knowledge. And that's, as we individually change our consciousness and we allow our souls to reconnect with the divine, we will express unconditional love to everyone and everything in our environment. And as we do this individually, we will start to attract other people to this. And as they go through that process and do it, we will eventually create this new era of love and peace throughout the world. And so that's my goal, is to try and seed this information with people so that they can make their own choice, they can make their own decision of whether this is going to work for them, and then if they choose to, they can embark on their own journey.
Well, I'm excited that you're letting us help you with this journey and your message now.
Yeah, thank you. I very much appreciate it. And as you and I've discussed, we measure in this form that we're in this material form. Book sales is kind of the indicator of the number of readers, and we can't get away from that. That's a metric that we use. But the real success of this book will be the number of people that read it. So if you have a hard copy and you've read it, you decide, nah, not for me, not a problem. Just please pass the book on to somebody else without colorful commentary, because you can never accurately judge the inner reality of another person. And so you don't know whether or not this information, which, didn't do anything for you, whether it's actually going to transform their life and help them.
That is very true. The book is available everywhere?
It's available, yes, everywhere. It's available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, or ebook. And it's available through your local bookstores, and it's available in all your ebook forms, Kobo, Nook, Apple, Kindle.
Do you have a website, Neil?
I do. So the website is dneilelliott.com. That's DNEILELLIOTT.com. And on that website, under about the book, you can also request the first chapter for free, and I'll send that to you. And you can find the book on Amazon, or like I said, or through your local bookstore.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing the information with us, Neil. I know that me and James, I appreciate it. I'm pretty sure my partner here does as well.
Yes, thank you so much for your time, Neil.
Yeah, thank you. I very much appreciate being with you today, and thank you for letting me be with you on your show.
I find it so interesting how many people we have on, and they're telling us about their message, and they're just a conduit.
That's what they say.
It's like people say, oh, the book writes itself, or we've even said sometimes, the show writes itself sometimes. We're just kind of a conduit, and now he just has this calm demeanor too. You know what I mean? Like
a sense of peace.
Really, he really does.
Yeah,
when you're talking to him and you're interacting with him.
Kind of a soothing. To talk to him, he just seems like he just has this deep inner peace about him, right?
Right. It really does. So that's kind of inspiring.
Yes. So the book again is called A Higher Road, Cleanse Your Consciousness to Transcend the Ego and Ascend Spiritually. And it's on Amazon. You can also check out his website, which is dneilelliott.com.
And I would encourage everyone to get his book.
Yes. And it sounds like there's going to be a follow-up to the book as well in the future.
Yeah. And it's cool, Kelly. I mean, you think we've had a handful of guests that come on, and we've been at the forefront of their message, them getting their message out. Wouldn't it be really cool now if all these things start coming to fruition and all these things start blowing up, and we were on the cusp of the wave?
Well, I think that more and more people, it seems that because we do the podcast, we seem to attract a lot of spiritual people, or people who are trying to get their message out there. Although the means of the message might be different, to me, at the end of the day, the message is all the same, right? When it comes to spirituality and, trying to transcend, or it's all about, at the end of the day, it seems to be all about love, is what I'm trying to get at.
It really does, huh? But we talked about this too, every destination doesn't have just one path. There's several different paths you can take, and then how you reach that ultimate Zen or love, wherever you're at, that's what counts.
Or that, because it seems like everybody's ultimate goal is to be happy, right? At the end of the day, everybody just wants to be happy. That could be, being rich could make you happy. I don't know, right?
It would be nice to find out,
but I'm just saying, it's not the rich would make you happy, so you think, but that's actually not what I'm getting at. I'm saying that at the end of the day, everybody wants to be happy. So you may think that being rich will make you happy. I don't know. When you get rich, let me know if you are happy. right? Because I don't think that's
you'll
it.
know.
But I think when you're on a spiritual journey, at the end of the day, it's about finding that inner happiness where you can be happy pretty much all the time on your own. Have that love for yourself all the time on your own, where you don't need validation from anybody.
And that's not an easy thing.
No, that is not an easy thing to achieve. That Zen, right? Where you're just cool with everything. And everything is cool with you.
Like, I think Canoe Reeves has that vibe.
Well, yeah, okay. I could see that. Where, yeah. And it seems like he's cool with everything, and everything seems to be cool with Kiani, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. You know, and if he's ever maybe looking to jump back into the dating world, I would take a bullet for all y'all, and I would date Kiani.
You would go.
I would do that for you guys and let you know what happened.
Yeah.
You're welcome. So there'd be just no need for anybody to even, let me try.
Yeah, I get to see Kelly jump in front of the line. I'll do it.
I'll do it.
Yeah. I don't want to, but I will.
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
All right, James.
And then as you walk away, they'll be like,
right? So www.thatsomecrazyshitpodcast.com. That's our website. You can look at past episodes, James's blog. You can reach out to us. Next week, James will have another intriguing, riveting guest.
We do always have good guests. You know what? It's funny, Kel. We need to start telling people, well, I don't know what I'm thinking. So many times we talk about guests, like, we should have this, come on. And then someone will contact us. Or we're looking for this. And then someone contacts us. And it's funny because I want the listeners to know that when I say it writes itself, it really does. It's crazy.
It's funny because I did say I want a ghost investigation person, not someone who's gone on an investigation, someone who does ghost investigations. We were just talking about this, and bam, one of our guests coming up will be just that. I think that's very cool. So yeah, you're right. It's called manifestation.
Yeah, that's it. Manifestation.
I
gotcha.
All right, James. Until next time, my friend.
Keep your minds open, people.